Welcome, one and all. Anyone listening, you have just tuned in to Just Talking, a podcast where me and a colleague express our opinions on any and all things entertainment, whether it be movies, television, video games, books, comic books, toys, music, anything that comes to mind and is relevant at the time. We're going to tell you about it. Featuring myself, Christopher Shue, alongside, as always, my co-host, Kenneth Eaton. So guys, I'm ready. I hope you're ready. So without further ado, let's start the show.
Welcome back to another episode. This is episode 4 of the podcast. Hope everybody's doing well and is enjoying their day, wherever it is, wherever you're at listening to this. Hope you're having fun. So how's everything going over there, Ken? How's your week been?
It's been all right.
Pretty good.
Just got done with this double feature we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, we saw a couple movies. One is a pretty big major picture. The other one is a independent feature, and that's what we're going to do first is Richard Linklater's new movie. He's the guy that directed Dazed Confused, a lot of other stuff, but Dazed Confused, the reason I mention this is because this movie is kind of the spiritual successor to that movie. It's called Everybody Wants Some, and it's very, very much the spiritual successor to Dazed Confused. This time it takes place in the 80s, and it's the same deal, but it kind of takes a spin. It's about a couple of college kids instead of high school kids this time. Some freshmen, of course, just like it was. It really was a spin on its head, but in the 80s, and literally the 80s. That was something I was a little surprised about because I knew it was going to be in the 80s, but I didn't know it was literally. I think it's like August 28th, 1980. So it's really still has a lot of 70s stuff in it. But anyways, that's what that movie is. Very good movie in my opinion. But let me shoot it over to you first. What did you think? What did you think about Everybody Wants Some?
Well, obviously I didn't want to compare it to Dazed and Confused because, it's a spiritual successor. I thought it was okay. There was, I think my biggest problem with it was it took me a little while to get into it because I thought a lot of the characters kind of got on my nerves in the beginning, but then as it kept going, I got used to them. There were still some characters that I just did not like at all. The big difference, like I said, it doesn't have to be like Dazed and Confused, but the big difference is like Dazed and Confused to me didn't have like a central star. It basically followed different groups of people, where this one was pretty much focused on the one character and everybody else was like his sidekicks, so to say, or just supporting players. And then not only that, but like it was all based around a baseball team, so they're all pretty much jocks. The biggest surprise that I liked, if none of you know, is Kurt Russell's son was in 21 Jump Street?
22.
But he's in this, and he was actually probably my favorite character in the whole thing. But overall, it was okay, and I wasn't expecting it to be as good as Dazed and Confused. But what was your thoughts?
For me, there's no way to not compare it to Dazed and Confused, because if you guys have seen Dazed and Confused, you know it's a great movie. It's really a fantastic movie if you really, I guess, are into that period kind of youth thing. So yes, I had it in my mind, though it did nothing to hinder this movie for me. It for the record, Dazed and Confused is a better movie. It was. Maybe because it's the first time I kind of saw something like that, but it was. But that doesn't mean really anything to the contrary to this movie. I really thought it was as far as the characters, I didn't really get annoyed by any. I know there are some characters that were potentially annoying, but that's what they were supposed to do. Like that crazy pitcher dude. I thought, as far as the characters go, I enjoyed them all. Yeah, the original kind of followed the young kids' perspective, though they had like a couple different through lines, like a B plot and so forth, with his friends that he left behind in Dazed Confused, whilst he went along with the new high school guys. But this one here is just follows a freshman into college. And they now, in the first one, it was about the football team. Now, they didn't deal as much about football in Dazed and Confused as they did about baseball here. But actually, that's one of the things I thought was actually good, because there are some things you do want to do differently. Because if it was just like Dazed and Confused, I don't know if I'd have cared for it. But yes, they did focus a little more on the sports element of them being a baseball team, because they're in a house, in like a fraternity house all together, and all of them, everybody in that house was a baseball player. So it didn't really focus on anyone else in the college or what have you. But yeah, they still chased. They were trying to find ladies, and it was in doing their vulgar college kind of stuff or whatever. But I really did. I enjoyed the characters. Mainly because there weren't really any that were exactly like. There weren't really any of them that were too similar to Dazed and Confused. Because this, if you want to look at it as, we kept calling it a spiritual successor, or if you want to look at it as even a sequel, which it's not. I wanted to see something different, and that's I got a same setup with different outcomes, which was cool. But there was definitely some similarities in there. But I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. As I was telling you earlier, it's really nice to have a movie. And as much as I love the tentpole movies, and as much as I love these big blockbusters today, and I do, it is nice to go into a movie, and it's really not going to be a lot of love for it, because I think there was maybe 10 people in the theater when we were there. But it is kind of nice to go to a movie and really see a movie. And what I mean by that is, this is a movie about characters, whether you liked them all or you didn't. And this is a movie about story, whether you liked pieces of it or liked all of it. And really, that's all it was about. It was a journey. Because same thing with Dazed and Confused. Same thing with Linklater's previous movie that I didn't watch, about the boy. But that's the thing about the boy that literally grew up on screen. He filmed it over 3 years or what have you. I didn't see it. It won an Oscar, but
I saw that.
But whether you like it or hate that, you can. There's something that Linklater does, because he even did the which I'm not surprised by, the baseball, because he did the Bad News Bear remake as well. So he must like baseball. But no, that's the kind of movies that he does. Really kind of character-driven stories, and I was really glad to see this kind of thing again. And like I was saying, it just felt like it was a movie. Like back in the day when you used to go see a movie, because that's just what it was. It doesn't necessarily have anything tied to it. It doesn't have any sequel potential. It's just a movie about some characters. And like I said, Dazed and Confused will always be a certain place in my heart. This year when it ended, I felt very similar. I felt very similar to the way I felt at the end of that movie. It's just like, wow, this journey, and I didn't want to see it end. The journey of these kids. And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but that's something I thought was kind of interesting in the movie was in Dazed and Confused, they start the movie at the end of the semester of school. So the movie takes place 2 or 3 days or whatever after summer break. And this movie takes place in college, but 2 or 3 days before the beginning of the semester, which that doesn't do one thing or another to the movie. I just thought that was I caught that it was kind of a nice little flip, since this is kind of a similar kind of thing. But it was like, all right, this is them doing their getting to the end of their party, because literally when it comes on, it says 3 days till the beginning of the class, and 3 days, 2 hours, 18 minutes or whatever. And so this is the final 3 days of them getting to be reckless, and now they got to go in and do class. Versus Dazed was, we didn't catch it. We caught the very beginning of it where they're in their final class, and then they just didn't give a shit because it was the last day of school, and they all raced out, and then they had their party. You got to see the first couple days of their summer. But no, I really enjoyed it. It was everything I thought it would be, and it was refreshing. But yeah, it was. Anything else you want to add to that?
I was going to say what's going to be interesting, because I thought it was okay, but I think like certain things to me, Dazed and Confused, it felt like, okay, I'm watching these kids and it felt natural, and to me this, for the first half of it, felt like just like kind of college comedy, kind of like a Neighbors or something like that. But then it kept going. I will say, without any spoilers, that my favorite thing in the whole movie is close to the end. There's a romantic involvement that happens that I thought evolved like at the very end of it. I do agree with you there. I wanted more because I was like, oh, this thing happened, and I was like, okay, I want to see where this goes. Like I said, but I don't know. I mean, but it's funny because like I'd like to see 10 years from now if how many of these kids, because I wasn't, Kurt Russell's son was the only one that I knew out of the group, but it's going to be interesting to see 10 years from now how many of these people becomes popular, because as you know, with Days Confused, you had Ben Affleck, you had McConaughey, obviously, you had so many people that went on to do more things. So that's
there was the one guy that I know is famous, and I can't think of his name. He reminds me of the guy that was in The Watchmen, right? Dr. Manhattan. What the guy with was like the
Billy Crudup. Yeah, it's funny. I wonder if that was him, because it did. Are you talking about the guy that doesn't like losing?
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking too. You reminded me of the dude from the Oneaters from That Thing You Do.
That yes,
kind of reminded me of him too. But I think I said in the past they look like each other. Actually, that character, for anybody that watches it, that character at the beginning, you're probably like me going to be like, what an asshole, because that's kind of like how he's kind of a character that, like I said, doesn't like to lose, throws tantrums.
Well, that's okay though, because Ben Affleck's character was an asshole.
But what I was going to say, but his redeeming thing is again about 3/4 in that I did like. He gets an altercation with another baseball player, and just their little exchange or whatever, that felt like natural, like when they kind of apologized to each other, whatever. But
I'm looking the guy up. His name is Tyler Hoechlin, Hoechlin, and on IMDb it just says he's known for Road to Perdition, the Teen Wolf TV show, Hall Pass, and Seventh Heaven. I'm trying to look on his thing here.
And speaking of which, did you think that the main girl looked like Isla Fisher?
Yeah, but
I thought she was like her, like related to her.
Yeah, but I knew who she was. Actually, to me, she looks like it's funny because we watched a movie with this person in there, which would be the next movie. But she looked like Rose Byrne's daughter to me. That's who she looked like to me. But she's actually a girl that was in a movie that I didn't care for so much. I just watched recently was Dirty Grandpa. She was one of the two. There was Audrey Plaza and then this girl. The two girls. And I was like, man, I've seen her recently. And it was Dirty Grandpa. If you guys like kind of stupid raunchy comedies, Dirty Grandpa, I'll give it a shot. But I'm looking here, man. I know I've seen this guy before. I know I have, but I don't recognize anything. Solstice, this guy was in. He was in a Castle episode, Hall Pass. And wow, so I mean, I know I've seen him in something, but I guess not that clearly. I don't know.
But but now, obviously, what I did take out of this a lot, and one of the main reasons why I saw this, I was kind of disappointed it wasn't like mid '80s, because I was thinking it was going to be, like kind of like when heavy metal got glamorized.
That was the biggest complaint I had. Was it was set literally, like I said, August 20-something 1980. So I've always had this theory, which is not really a theory. It just seems like almost a fact that it takes 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years to get into a decade. If you think in 2002, did it seem really like the 2000s? Maybe it was turning into it, but it still seemed like it was remnants of the 90s. Same thing here would be like, which, I mean, clearly they did, because a lot of the wardrobe looked very 70s still. So, I mean, it just turned 80. Maybe it's about to be 81, because they say it was in August. And so it's not going to be like, well, it's 80s now, we got to just figure, because trends have to figure itself out. So there wasn't mohawks in this. There weren't studded leather jackets in this.
They did have a scene with like punk band, punk band. They did have,
and you know what's cool about that? It was in an underground nightclub, which is because it was showing that it hasn't yet hit popularity.
Yeah.
And it was coming up, and I thought that was really, really cool.
And actually, in all fairness, what surprised me was the music, actually, because you had a rap song, you had country, you had punk. I mean, he didn't
Blondie,
just
played.
I mean, it had a wide variety, so it did capture the music.
Oh yeah, well, look, listen, Linklater's been fantastic. He's been really, really good at that kind of stuff. I mean, he knows what he's doing. But yeah, I thought it was a good movie. One other maybe complaint was that there's a real country guy in it that I don't know if he was doing it or maybe that was just relaxing. If so, then I'm sorry.
I wasn't a big fan of that character. Yeah.
But he was really like the McConaughey kind of. At least he sounded like him. His character wasn't like him, but as soon as he started talking like this, and I was like, oh man. And he even said all right.
He did have a.
I don't know if they said they told him to do that on purpose or not, but he said all right.
There's one scene with that character. It is pretty early on. It's not when he gets like when the main character gets introduced to him. He seems like he's going to be a cool dude, but then there's this one scene where the guy comes in and asks him something. He says no, but then like as the movie progresses, because I kept thinking, well, this is going to be the asshole of the movie or whatever, because of that one. That one scene without giving anything away. But he doesn't. It ends up.
Well, because he's a freshman as well, so he got kind of nobody was like hazed, but they kind of got picked on a little bit as well. And there was one. The only thing I could think of was because he knew dude was a freshman as well, the main character. But and then one last thing is like if you ever like had a teen hangout, there is a place in this movie that reminded me of teen hangouts. Yeah, it was a little
very nostalgic.
It was a little disco-y. Once again, it's still remnants of the 70s.
But just the way it was set up reminded me of a place they used to hang out all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. When they walked in and you could kind of hear the bass of the music in the little hallway before you go in, and the guy at the little shitty window taking your money, the cover fee or whatever. I was like, man, I remember that because at least where we are, there's not a lot of that kind of stuff anymore. But anyways, look, Everybody Wants Some, which if you haven't figured out, it's a Van Halen song. And they mentioned Van Halen in the movie as well, thankfully. And they played the song in the movie. But it's a Van Halen song. Anyways, listen, if you like Dazed and Confused, you're at least going to like this movie. I thought it was really good. I'll score real quick. What are you going to give it?
I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll do the same. I was thinking about.
Oh wow,
8.
really?
I was thinking about 8. Well, 7's kind of high for me. 7's I gave Jungle Book a 7, and I mean, there's only 3 more spots, and I've said this before. You don't give a lot of stuff 10 because how many perfect movies are there? 9 and 8 are got to be pretty damn good, and.
I guess with me, because if it sounds like I'm hating on the movie, I'm really not. It's just don't go in thinking this is going to be Dazed and Confused too. Don't go in.
Well, don't think it's going to be that. Yeah. But just understand that it's still in the same vein. So, for one, it's a different time as well. I mean, it's different motivations for the characters as far as music and as far as what was changing into when it goes to the 70s and 80s. Anyways, second movie, we're just going to go ahead and go right into that. The second movie we saw in this doubleheader was The Huntsman Winters War. Is that it? Winters War?
Yeah, Winters War.
The new movie by, I don't know the guy's name, but it's a sequel to Snow White and the Huntsman. Came out a couple years ago, and of course, stars Charlize Theron, Rose Byrne, Chris Hemsworth, and Jessica Chastain, excuse me.
You mean Emily Blunt.
What did I say?
Rose Byrne.
Rose Byrne.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Because I just said...
You just said Rose Byrne.
I just said Rose Byrne a while ago. She's in the X-Men movies, guys. Yeah, Emily Blunt. Which I guess, to me, kind of looks like Rose Byrne as well. But anyways, this movie hasn't really been getting a lot of critical acclaim. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to see it, because, as I say all the time, don't listen to just critics. Don't listen to just scores. Don't listen to just us. We're going to tell you how we felt about the stuff. If you think we're being harsh or too kind to it, well, then go and judge for yourself and write it on a forum or whatever, because, opinions are great. But so anyways, apparently there's not been a lot of really nice things said about this. And there's been some people that's 50-50 with the original Snow White and the Huntsman movie. I mean, it's a very visual kind of movie, both of these, but certainly the first one. And so I wanted to take a look at it. I guess I'll go this time. I thought it was an okay movie. I was one of them that was a fan of Snow White and the Huntsman. And admittingly, the story was okay. But admittingly, the guy that directed the first time, he was his first-time director. He came off of commercials, and they were really crazy, trippy commercials. So I was telling you, I remember when it came out, I was looking at them because they talked about the ones he had done. I think one was a Nike commercial. I can't remember them exactly, but they were really crazy and very visually stimulating and really crazy, trippy commercials. And so it really made sense when this guy did this first one, Snow White and the Huntsman, because it was really, I mean, if anything's to take out out of it. It was visually stimulating. And whoever the guy is that they took over for this next one here, you could definitely tell was told to do the same, do more of the same, keep it in that same style. Because for one, it wouldn't match if it was too drastically different. I didn't think that the guy grasped it as well. I thought the first guy, once again, coming from commercials and doing it the way he did, when they approached him and he told them how he wanted to do the movie, he gave his idea and his pitch, and they were like, great. And then I just thought that the form and of the special effects were generally from his mind. I mean, I always reference when, like, at the end of the movie, Charlize Theron's a bunch of crows, and she comes back to her, and flies back into her castle and hits the ground and splats and turns into oil, and then Charlize comes out of the oil all black, and you're like, man, that's just, you hate the movie if you want to, but that shit is, that was really, like, blown my mind. But anyways, I thought this time around the visuals were there. I didn't think it was good, but the visuals were there. But this time, where a lot of people didn't care for the first movie because of story, and maybe because of Kristen Stewart, because a lot of people don't like her. Though I didn't think she did as bad as she did maybe in, like, say, the Twilight movies. And I think she's actually getting better as an actress. But a lot of people didn't like it because the story was here or there. But I fell for the visuals. I fell for the visuals and what was going on. I thought, man, this is cool. This time around, I think the visuals just weren't going to cut it. And it had to bring something more to that. And unfortunately, I think it fell a little short there. I mean, there was a couple of logistical problems, which a lot of movies have, but there's some stuff like this. The love interest between Chastain and Hemsworth was believable, but I just think they ran past the setup. So, I mean, we're supposed to believe they're in love because they tell us that they're in love, more so than showing us that they're in love. I mean, there's a scene with it. And there's always these scenes in certain movies where they have this, one of them is wronged by a devious or a situation for which they were manipulated. And in my opinion, in a situation like this kind of happens, but it's like, if it's logical when somebody comes and says, no, I didn't kill your mother. This isn't what happens, by the way. No, I didn't kill your mother. James killed your mother. And he plotted it on me. And if all the evidence looks correct there, and they're like, then you should go, oh, I knew you wouldn't kill. And everything seemed right. But most of the time, like, I don't like it when they go, I don't believe that. I'm like, well, look, the evidence is there. I wasn't even in the house that day. How could you believe it? And they're like, well, you're right, but still, I don't like you because I still believe this happened. I don't know, that kind of gets on my nerves. Anyway, there's a couple things like that. But anyway, I'm going to throw it to you real quick. What did you think about, that's just a couple things, like I said, for me. What did you think about the Huntsman War?
Well, what's interesting is I'm... unlike you, when I saw the original, the Snow White and the Huntsman, I was, I guess, kind of blinded in a way because this was also around the time of Twilight, so I was just hating on Kristen Stewart bad. And that being the case, like, to me, she distracted me from the movie, actually. But I have to say, after this, I didn't think the movie was great, but what I will give The Huntsman is it's piqued my curiosity. First of all, for Snow White and the Huntsman. And second of all, there was a lot of similarities to an 80s movie that I watched a lot, and that was Willow. And what I'm getting at is, like, unfortunately, you don't get all the dwarfs in here, but you get two dwarfs that remind me of the little fairy guys in Willow. And I thought Hemsworth was a lot like Matt Mardigan, and I don't know, like I said, a lot of it felt like Willow, which I guess was a plus for me, because, not to get on a tangent, but Willow, after seeing it so many years later, I like the second half, but the first half is like But like I said, I thought it was a fun movie. The problem is, like you said, is the script. Here's the deal: if you've seen a lot of fantasy films, there's no really twist that you'll see probably every twist coming, and there's a lot of we're going to shock you, but here's how we're going to turn it around kind of thing that got kind of annoying. As far as the style goes, I thought the style was okay, but I do see you were talking about how, like, there's a one scene in a tavern that was kind of plainly shot. And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I do see that. Like, it was. In fact, that whole scene, there's maybe like one or two scenes that probably shouldn't have been in the movie at all, I believe, that really didn't serve any purpose. But
yeah, well, that tavern was one of them to where I was basically saying that it was just a plot device to get to something else, and like a couple guys come in and just basically start harassing Hemsworth and company for no real reason, other than to get to this next plot device, and But
the strength, the thing, the standout is if you go and see this. To me, the standouts are the dwarves. I really enjoyed Nick Frost. That other dwarf was that I kept looking at it. It looked like Hugo Weaving.
No,
but I know it wasn't. But it reminded me of Hugo Weaving. But the setback is if you're expecting all the dwarfs, you will just have these two. One of them is actually new dwarf, and then Nick Frost. But I really enjoyed that, and then they have two female dwarfs as well. That was good, like interaction and everything. And one of the big things, it's the first time I've seen a goblin, I believe, in a fantasy film, at least the way that they portrayed it. And it wasn't like great. The CGI wasn't great on that, but it was kind of neat to see like Goblin's motive and everything.
Right. Well, the designs of it were pretty good.
Yeah.
It just Now this guy you're talking about that played the other character was Rob. His name is Rob Brydon, Brydon, and it looks like he was not really much. He was in the Cinderella live action remake last year, and he was in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels back in '98, and looks like a lot of TV movie, TV short. Yeah, so. But
here's the other thing. If anybody's on the fence about this, thinking, hey, this is a prequel, it's not. It's a prequel, and that's one of the things that, again, it has a lot of narration at the beginning. Kind of setting up the whole fairy tale book, but the first half of it is a prequel, but then we fast forward past Snow White and the Huntsman, so it is stuff that happens after as well.
The prologue is pretty much the sequel, or the prequel.
Like I said, you didn't have a problem with narration. I did, just for the simple fact that I thought it was real heavy in the beginning, and then when you get past the prequel part, I don't remember any narration until the end of the movie.
Well, there wasn't. Well, like I was saying, the reason I didn't have a problem with it, and by the way, this is not a spoiler, it's Liam Neeson that does the, and you can't mistake it. So it's weird because it was a fantasy movie that was set, a lot of it with ice. I kept thinking, well, it's Aslan, the lion, because he played the voice of the Aslan character in the Chronicle of Narnia. But I didn't have a problem simply because these movies, it's based off of the Snow White. At least the first movie was Snow White, fairy tale, and that's generally what happens in fairy tales. You go, once upon a time there was a so and so that did what, and a queen that did this and so forth. So you don't really narrate in the middle of it. You don't say, do all this kind of. And there was a princess and she was lonely, and they get in the middle of it and they be like, and now the huntsman's sad because his chickens were raw. And then you get to the end of it, and then he goes, and they lived happily ever after. And then so that's why I didn't really have a problem with it. Whether it was needed, I don't think so. Not necessarily. I mean, we could see, to your point, we could see what's going on, but I think they did it specifically because this thing was like a fairy tale kind of thing. But is there anything else that you wanted to add to?
No, like I said, I think
we'll score. I guess we'll score this thing. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, which is just an okay, mediocre kind of. That's for me. What did you?
I'll follow you with the 5 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, we're both on the same page again today. All right, cool. Well, that's going to be our reviews this week. Everybody wants some thumbs up, Huntsman, thumbs middle, whatever. So give them both a shot if you think any of them sounds good to you, and then tell your friends if you liked it, because especially everybody wants some, because it's an independent movie. We had 10 people in the theater, so.